About this, I was trying to figure out how to approach this, because I figured most people know what the right foods are. Okay, so most of us know, all of us know that, and that's kind of a no-brainer, and we've all heard about this information, and a lot of you work in this arena, so you know that already. So I thought of, you know, we also think of meetings, we think of things separately. For instance, one of my staff works as a diet aide at the hospital down in Wareham. Toby, yes. And she said that she walked into a patient's room and they had had a medical issue that was related to diet, but they didn't connect the two at all. So they couldn't understand why they weren't getting the regular food that they always had, because they didn't understand that what they had wrong with them had a direct relationship to diet. And so we always have this disconnect. And so that's kind of the way I was approaching this, that we have this disconnect between having a meeting and the kinds of food you serve at the meeting and the quality of the performance at the meeting, really. So that's how I put this together. The first thing I thought of was, you know, I felt that there would be a variety of people here. We're all doing something different in our agencies. We take care of, maybe you take care of mental health, maybe you take care of physical health, social health, emotional health, and this environmental health, spiritual health, just in case there are any clergy here. That's a big part of people's livelihoods when they're parts of these agencies. But for some reason, when food gets thrown into the mix for a meeting, that the good things that they do and all of the beneficial things that they do to develop and grow the human being kind of gets lost because they forget about physical health is part of our food, is part of our physical health, and part of our mental health, part of our social health, part of our emotional health, environmental health, and even our spiritual health. So that's the kind of way I was bringing this together, is thinking that it's not separate, it's not something different. It is part of all these things. And so since I knew this would be mostly human service agencies, we kind of have to bring that full circle to bear. Has seen this, and again, I didn't know who exactly I'd be talking to, but why should we care? Well, we should care because we're in Bristol County. And we've got some problems here around health behaviors. And that could be emotional health, mental health, physical health, all of those components. But we're 12th in the state out of 14 overall in our health ranking and 13th in health behaviors. And you can see our obesity and overweight percentages. We're 31.9% for youth obesity and overweight for Fall River, 37.2% for New Bedford. And of the 15 top causes of death in the United States, 6 are related to diet. And the first one is heart health. And then the next one is cancer. And then the next one is stroke. And so you can, and then you go tick down the line, you've got diabetes. And you can continue to go down, liver disease, kidney disease. They all have a diet component related to them. So that's a big part of why, if you're dealing in an agency that's dealing with the health of a person in one realm, you really need to think of it in all those areas. So that's why we should care a lot. But and many of you have seen this. Some of you have not. That Fall River does have a nutrition and physical activity strategy, and it takes all these different components together to try to change the environment and the policy in the city around nutrition and physical activity. So the idea there is that we're creating these opportunities and talking to people so that each place a person goes, they're going to get an input of a healthy message. And so if they want to take action on that healthy message, so they decide to change, we have a selection of healthy restaurants in the city. We have walking maps for the city. There are all these opportunities to put the decision to take action into action. So that's part of this as well. So we're talking about an environment change, and so the environment has to change everywhere. And you know, everywhere you meet the public. And so if we're working with clients, then we have to walk talk and make sure that that's out in the open, and we're presenting that to our clients. Employees can buy healthy snacks and vending machines that can choose healthy foods at meetings and trainings. Imagine a community where caterers, restaurant owners, and other food and drink companies provide healthy foods at good prices and in healthy amounts for customers. Imagine a community where foods and beverages are served in small portions. Imagine a community where healthy foods are offered at potlucks, meetings, health fairs, religious functions, etc. That can happen as the environment changes. And imagine a community where the health option is the default option for all people. And so it is just automatically what they do, because when they turn, I look at it like a pinball machine. You know, if you turn this way, you're going to hit a healthy option. You turn that way, you're going to hit a healthy option. That's how I look at it. And that's what I hope would happen through these initiatives and the ideas that we bring forward here. So my next question is, why do you serve meals at meetings?
To get people there.
Yeah. To get people there. Okay.
Sometimes they span the time.
Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Kind of helps bring people together sometimes.
What's that? Oh.
Depends on the meeting. If you're having a
Well,
meeting
yeah,
where
if you
people
cross
are-
a meal pattern.
No, but I'm saying if you're having a meeting where you're trying to get people to come from outside that don't normally come to your
Okay.
meeting, food might be an enticing way to get them there.
Okay.
Katie got a good answer too. She said it's expected, which is interesting.
It's expected.
And it's true. In a lot of instances it is. People expect it.
Okay. So, how about thinking about if there isn't any food? You guys came.
Well, I thought that was Someone asked me this morning if there was going to be food. Maybe some carrot sticks.
It is.
That's true.
We had an activity first. You're going to have an activity at the end. That's interactive and hands-on. We didn't say what you were going to have. So the idea here is to change the paradigm. How are we going to change this and get food out of the equation if it's not necessary? So really thinking about it in terms of, are we making assumptions about what people expect? Okay? Are we putting that out there? It's our personal assumptions. Are we willing to say, I noticed a couple of flyers that said pizza will be served for lunch. Why do you have to say what you're going to serve?
I think, can I?
Yeah.
I'll answer that. Well, I'm from a nutrition program, but from many other agency standpoints or any other work groups or anything else that's going on out in the community, I guess maybe the overuse of the saying, feed them, they will come,
Right.
kind of thing. So, yeah, pizza, if there's
But why not say lunch will be served?
Mm-hmm.
And don't put that condition on the expectation.
refreshment or...
Light refreshments will be served.
Yes.
If we're assuming that people are going to come for the food, depending on the population that we're trying to get, like especially if we're trying to get the community in,
Okay.
we know that pizza is that little catchword that's going to bring,
But has anybody ever tried dinner will be served?
I don't know, but
I
try
know
putting carrots and vegetables
Don't
in
know.
dessert.
I'm not saying that. Carrots.
Light refreshments.
The choice,
Yeah.
the choice is up to you. It's very interesting how this always comes back to this. When I teach parent classes, it comes back to this parent-child relationship with food. I can put that relationship into any people's relationship. The parent or the adult or the agency, whatever, is responsible for what food is served and where it is served. The child or the person who comes is responsible for how much they eat and whether or not they eat. So, no, you don't have to say carrots and celery will serve. You just say light refreshments. You just say lunch. And then you choose. I don't think people will not eat because it's a healthy spread.
Pat, I recently had a meeting and I did not put what was being served because I didn't want to pigeonhole myself, and it was based on a budget what I could serve, and everything that I served was healthy, like bagel thins, granola, and yogurt, and it was a breakfast meeting. And I think people actually expected like eggs and bagels, and everybody was really pleasantly happy with what was there, because I think that they expected there to be unhealthy things, and then, oh, I have to eat it because it's this meeting, and that's how they're thanking us. And they're like, oh wow, there's fruit, and it was all healthy, and they were pleasantly surprised by it.
I think so. That's the kind of change in the paradigm I'm talking about. So, you know, we're talking. So I put on this next slide assumptions, barriers, and solutions. So assumptions are we think we need to feed them. Okay. The assumption we don't need to make is we think we know what they want to eat. Okay. And we're responsible for what food is served. And if you keep that relationship in mind, that really helps out a lot. If an agency feels that they're responsible for what food is served, then they will put out what they feel responsible for. It's up to the person that's coming whether they eat or not. And so far I've heard multiple stories like this, as they put out healthy rolled up sandwiches and a vegetable platter, and everybody was pleased. There was no arguments. There was only water. There was no soda.
Do you think it's the same when we're inviting people from like the community to come in? Because I think it's very easy when we have a group like this. I'll put out a spread that for lunch has wraps and water instead of soda and not think twice about it. And a couple of cookies too, I'm not gonna lie. But I don't think that I would make that same menu if I was inviting a whole bunch of parents to come in with their kids. I think I would make that assumption that this may not be what they want to eat, and if I want to get them in.
That's not the assumption you can make for them.
I also think we make an assumption that if they don't eat this meal, they're going to starve. It is one meal. And if you serve something that parents might not want to give to their kids, nothing will happen. They simply won't eat it, and you'll have more to donate at the end. And I think that part of it is that we lose sight of the fact that this is one meal. We're not taking them to camp for 3 weeks and offering them things every single day that they want.
And it gets back to that you're responsible for what. So if you would do that for a group like this, then that person that comes in from the community should be recognized that they're willing, that they would eat the same thing, something that's good for them. And you're responsible for what?
Yeah, I would try to sneak in some healthy things, but I don't know that I would
I'm telling you.
be like, make a whole healthy meal. I think I would be a little afraid, honestly, on whether or not they would want to come back and eat.
Hold on, Paula, go ahead.
You know, I think because I work at a health agency as well, and I'm responsible for all the social events. And sometimes, and I'm sure Lisa can attest to this, when we have for example, our family fun on the Sunday, we invite everyone from the community, and we very adamant, we only serve healthy food items. And I think for some parents and some children, going to a function like what you're saying, when you're putting out healthy breakfasts, or you're putting out healthy wraps and stuff, sometimes it's a wonderful opportunity for someone to try something they wouldn't ordinarily eat and to find out they really like it. We've had children, because I usually get cut up fruit, and what we do is we make little tiny fruit salads, and we put them in little cups for them. And some children have actually said, what is this? I've never had it before. And it was pineapple. They've never tasted pineapple. Or yogurt. And they loved it, and they came back and wanted more.
You could look at it as an opportunity.
An opportunity, exactly. And they may find they really like it.
And then we have to talk about, so we'll talk about what comprises health, okay? So that's the other misconception here, is that maybe you're thinking, you know, hummus and pita bread and tofu and carrots and broccoli, and that's the spread. That's not the picture of health, okay? We want real, not strict.
I'm just a little disturbed by something you said, though. If we feed the people that we work with differently than we feed our clients, we're making quite the social commentary there. We're saying that what we give to people we work with, we expect one level of participation, and what we give to our clients, we expect another level of participation, rather than saying, this is the policy of our agency, and that we're going to present it in such a way that will encourage people to try it and eat it. I have a little uncomfortable feeling about saying, you know, for us, we'll have something good, but for everybody else, we'll have something else.
And also to build on that too, you had said something when you say that maybe this is something they don't want to feed their children. I don't think it's that they don't want to feed their children, it's that they don't feed their children that. It's not that they don't want to, it's just that they don't.
know
And
how
it may
to
be
use
something that they're not
those foods,
familiar
or-
with,
yeah.
or, you know, how to
It's
cook
actually-
it, and you know, those kind of things. But it's, I think it's wrong to jump to the assumption
Well,
that they don't want to feed
one
them
of the
that.
reasons I came up with this kind of way to discuss this is another educator came to me, and she was relating to me a story of a group she was teaching substance abuse homes. And she was relating a story, and the women were very disagreeable. They were saying, oh, I wouldn't eat that, I wouldn't do that, and she stopped. And she said, so, let me ask you, what's your barrier here? And actually, they knew what the right thing was to eat. It was getting over their barrier of the time it would take, and the idea that it was too expensive. And that's what the lessons are teaching. But by the end of it, they had made their own decisions to eat another piece of fruit every day. So you can't make assumptions about people that way. And all you can do is make the policy and stick to it. And believe me, it's food, they'll eat it. And it's good food, it'd be better for them.
I think it was very brave of Jade to say what she said, and Pat and I know through Smiles, Pat was an advocate. We had Smiles parties and we had brownies and cupcakes, and Pat would call me and I'd be like, I felt like we were depriving the kids by not giving them cupcakes. I've lost 16 pounds, I've completely shifted my own visions of it, but I think what Jade was saying is she wants to bring in funner foods.
Oh, I understand.
And this is why this meeting is awesome, because at FACE, we've had a healthy luncheon, Dave was there, and everyone's like, healthy food can be good food, so it's just...
And fun food.
And fun, and yeah, exactly, like a chocolate-covered raisin or a yogurt-covered raisin. But you don't want the families to think, oh, why are they serving us vegetables? What are they, like...
Because it was partly like, when I do meetings, I have people, like when I do meetings like this, they request the healthy foods. But when you're advertising it out to the community, you're specifically asked, what are you going to make? Are you going to make kid-friendly food? And they go in to explain to you what they feel is kid-friendly food. So you start to think that you got to feed that.
But that's your prerogative to say, we're planning a good menu. It's not their prerogative to say to determine for you what you're going to serve.
That's why we're at this meeting, to show.
Right.
Exactly. This is what we talked about months and months and months ago. We were talking about, you know, how can we have some impact on the community? Because we can't go out and get, you know, a bazillion people to come to a training. So why don't we talk about training the trainers? And it was what I had said at the beginning about going forth and multiplying or subtracting, as you said. But the idea that if all of us can go back to our agencies and then start, you know, working on that with our clients and with the staff, and then maybe some more of the staff will do more of that with their clients. And so it's that whole ripple effect that could be phenomenal. If we, and I love your point about, you know, you can't treat people as two different communities. One of the meal planning sessions we had gone to when somebody working in an agency that's not this room, when we were talking about what to serve, and he had said, well, why not hot dogs and hamburgers? And well, you know, that's not so good for people. And then he said, but that's what these people eat. And I wanted to smack him upside the head. Because, I mean, what an awful way to stereotype and make the assumption that that's only what they will eat, because it's not true.
Right. And we wouldn't tell them.
Getting back to the children thing too, you know what you're saying about, you know, parents are asking if it's kid-friendly food. Well, just I'm sure, again, you know, the WIC program always makes something for our events when we're having children, and they use a lot of the WIC products. Now, some parents, I'm sure maybe some of the moms that you're speaking with would say, oh, my child only eats sugar-sweetened cereal. They make a mix with all kinds of different Chex mixes and stuff. They're not sugar-sweetened, and they throw in some pretzels or something. The kids love them, you know, because they're crunchy and they taste good. And
to be very honest with you, usually
it's an opportunity,
what parents think their children will eat is completely different from what their children are willing to eat. They really don't know them. They make their own assumptions, because we've had vegetable things at the farmers markets and the kids love them. And the parents are standing there with their mouths open because they can't believe their kids are eating it. So it would be good if you could try to start to layer in something different and just go with it.
Well, I think also that we look at food differently. If our client said to us, after I eat, I always smoke a cigarette, or I always have a glass of scotch, we would be appalled, and we would say that that is absolutely not acceptable, that these are behaviors that we don't do here. And we should look at food the same way, that there are certain behaviors we
why I
just
put
simply
that
don't do.
first slide up, is that we all do good things for all of our clients, and we're doing them in different ways, and things are acceptable and non-acceptable. Food should be that same, go along with that same line,
And
because that's going to make
And I
a
think
difference
it's
for the
more
health of
about
the person.
maybe being accessible, because if you're saying that they'll only eat hamburgers and hot dogs, but if you put, you know, a fruit platter out there or a nice big salad that's colorful that has strawberries in it instead of the hamburgers and hot dogs, and if that's the only thing that they're to eat, they're going to eat it, and they're trying something new that they may not have thought of doing before with a salad.
Yeah. That's the whole, and it's exactly why we're having this meeting, so that we can just kind of open that up a little bit.
When Marcia gave me the wellness policy this year for the school, and we implemented it in Smiles, and I've told them, if you bring in brownies, I'm gonna have to take them home,
And we
sorry,
did.
and the mentors actually think we're like torturing the kids at first, and then we say, and I always say, I know it sounds like what, but then I use the example of a principal said to me that a child had seen a blueberry and ate it, was like, what is that? And they just didn't have access, because it's easier to eat bad food, it's cheaper.
Absolutely.
Wendy's is cheaper than Panera.
So you can't, yeah, there's no question that there's more access to the food that isn't good for them than there is to the food that is.
For Smiles, we're mentors, so I say to them, we're the perfect gatekeepers to interesting, healthy food, and then they're like, oh!
Well, that brings up my other point, is that we're all modeling good behaviors, no matter where we are and what we're doing. I had a middle school girl tell me in another class that we do that we were talking about energy drinks, and she was, you know, we talked about what's in it and how you read the label and da-da-da-da, and she said, but what difference does it make? I bet if I go outside and see you on the street, you'll be drinking one.
Mm-hmm.
So she's looking at adults modeling behaviors, and she's been jaded to the idea that, you know, tell them to stop smoking, tell them to do this, and then she goes out and sees the adult do this. We have to model those behaviors that we want to see other people implement. And so that's another big piece of this. If our agencies are modeling good behaviors, if that's the idea behind, that's the goal, then that's what has to follow through with this. Anyway, maybe no food. Mid-morning, mid-afternoon, maybe just water. There's no reason to have food at a meeting that's just a staff meeting that's quick. You're not bringing people in from outside, even if it's a community meeting and it's just all people that we all know. Just water in a mid-morning. You don't have to think about food, or think about incentives when you're bringing people to a morning meeting or even an evening meeting. Have you know, little incentives that will be fun for them. Pedometers are a lot of fun. People get them all the time. Pens. WIC has tons of other things. Vegetable peelers.
Red is the queen.
Yeah. HealthNet has tons of things, but those kind of incentives, people love to. I have the pedometer from a meeting I went to a couple weeks ago. Not that I only have 10 pedometers, but I do have it, and everybody was really jazzed that they got a little pedometer. So incentives are a great way to make people feel that they're welcome and wanted as well. The other piece of it is being an effective meeting planner. So if you're having a meeting with adults and it's more of a professional meeting, or even if it is with a community, you got to look organized. So you have an agenda, you end on time, you respect the fact that they're here and they have to be someplace else. You make it as interactive as possible. This was interesting. Include culturally appropriate music. So if you're working with a different ethnic group, have some music that speaks to that community. Use icebreakers. That got everybody laughing and going, and that's a really positive idea and thing to do. The other one is to give personal invitations to people, to make them feel like they're important. Allow group members that are coming in for the meeting to fulfill different roles. So Marcia had everybody redoing the room that came early. That made them feel loved and wanted and all of that. have a concrete meeting direction, and then give small assignments at the end if that's what needs to be done. So everybody has a ownership of the group. So the food isn't the main function here, that's secondary to the actual meeting. And if you know you're going to get in and out and on time, people are more willing to just be there, do what you need to do, and get on with the next thing. Food is important. If you're crossing over meal times, you have to be respectful of that. And this is where we get into, but what kind of food, all right? So you might plan a breakfast, you might plan a lunch, you might plan a dinner, and that's absolutely appropriate when you're crossing over meal times. Meals that are high in starch, refined sugars, and fats, they make people tired, okay? So if you have served that for lunch and you expect people to do any work in the afternoon, it's not happening. You get people slumped in their chairs, they're looking dazed and confused, and that is partially a factor of the type of food that was served. Whole grains with lean protein and vegetables, they allow the brain to work on a lighter, they give the energy to the brain from the nutrients you're getting, but also it's a lighter meal. And so you're not as weighed down with the digestive process, is basically what's happening. The starch and the fats really drag down your digestive process, and your energy is going into your digestion rather than to your brain. And so when you have something that your body can work on easily and over a period of time, it's keeping you full, but it's also allowing you to stay awake. And basically that's a big part of it. Think about drinks as well. So obviously for breakfast, I don't think we'll ever get away from having coffee. Then I think you would have a riot. If you didn't have coffee at a breakfast, then you would have a riot, or tea, or something like that. So everybody likes hot or caffeinated drinks in the morning. But make sure it's coffee or tea. Stay away from the high sugary drinks like soda. Even though they're caffeinated, and I know some people prefer them in the morning, they are high in sugar, and you're going to get an energy peak, and then it's going to drop to the floor. And so you're not going to get your best performance out of people for the morning meeting. But then I go to the late afternoon snacks. Think about not having caffeine at those times, because it actually can make you more tired. And so you might not get the benefit. So if you think about meetings that you go to, you get coffee at breakfast, you get coffee for the mid-morning break. I'm talking about like a planned all-day meeting. You get coffee at lunch. You get coffee at mid-afternoon break. And people are not wired. They are pretty tired, and it's partially the caffeine has a swing-back effect. So you don't need caffeine at that afternoon break. People do like, if you're having a full lunch, people do like a cup of coffee, sometimes with their dessert, but that's pretty much the only thing that you might think of. So you think about drinks. Water is the best alternative. Simple? Simple. So even if you're talking budgets here, we're talking simple, simple, simple. We're talking fresh fruit, yogurt, mini bagels, mini muffins, something to drink, and you're done. Or even fresh fruit and yogurt and a little bit of granola, and they make a yogurt parfait, and you're done. You don't have to, and I even noticed this with the catering menus, because I looked at many catering menus. I think I brought the Subway catering menu. They have a ton of food that they suggest that you get for, they have 5 to 9 people, a platter. They said we'll serve 5 to 9 people. It's got 18 sandwiches on it, right? Because they say I had 2 half sandwiches. But the reality is most people will only take a half sandwich. So you can go a little short. It's not, nobody's going to starve, as Wendy said. It's going to be okay. So making breakfast simple, and you have some juice, you have some coffee, and you're done. It doesn't have to be a big thing. If you have a special speaker coming, something that I did when I was working in Boston was I would go to a brown bag series. And they had special speakers in the afternoon at lunchtime, and you brought your lunch, and they just had water. And so everybody just brown bagged it. That's another way to have a meeting, through lunch. And then you're not dealing with the choices that you have to make. Build your own salad meetings. So you have all the salad fixings out there. So they could have, it's like your own little salad bar. And that's what people have for lunch. There could be protein with beans, and there could be the dairy with cheeses. You could have nuts. You could have sunflower seeds. It could be a full meal. You like that?
Yeah.
A full meal but you only serve salad, literally. So that's another idea. And then it gives people the opportunity to make that choice. Desserts. Yes, desserts are okay, and I believe in desserts. Small cookies though, not disc size, CD size cookies, okay? Whole or cut up fruit is great dessert with a little bit of yogurt. It's another great way. Or low fat ice cream, but in individual cups, so you control the portion sizes, okay? So, and that's, you know, perfectly kid-friendly, something like that. And it's something that everybody thinks they got something great. But it's portion controlled, and it's also overall calorie controlled, and it's light. So those are the kinds of ideas. So those are some ideas that you can bring into it. Caterers, and you know people that have worked with you that have been amenable to your changes and have done a good job. Okay, there's some people that will say, yeah, I'll do it, and then it comes and it just doesn't look quite right. He said their heart wasn't in it. That they do a good job and they really worked with you and they kept the price at low or at the same price you would have paid for their regular meal. Talk about them. Let people know about them. Share the name, because that's how they're going to be able to do more of that. If more people start asking for that same kind of food, is that they will know that this is a market movement. And when the market moves, they're going to respond. And that's how we get people to change the paradigm. That's how the paradigm shifts. Everybody's doing the same thing. So ask them to do lower fat preparations in some of their, so using, instead of finishing off some of their meals with butter, they could use a low fat margarine, or they could cook it in olive oil and things like that. Serve dressings on the side. So if anybody gets a salad, don't have it dressed. Make sure the dressing's on the side, because you're controlling, you're allowing other people to control what they do. Select entrees that are baked, broiled, grilled, or steamed. That's basically not fried, and that's going to keep down the calorie level. Ask for whole grain bread. So if you're getting rolls with the meal, ask that they be whole grain. That is something that caterers don't necessarily get all the time. But if enough people are asking for it, they're going to start providing it. And it's there. It's not that the product isn't available. It's just that if they don't have enough customers asking for it, they're not going to have it available, because why would they? If people start asking for it, then it becomes more of that's the environment change we're looking for. Choose tomato-based sauces for entrees as opposed to the cheese-based or the cream-based sauces. That will keep the calorie levels down. And include at least a fruit and at least one vegetable with no sauce on it in the meal. And you're working with your caterer through this. So if they say, I'm going to serve green beans with a lovely lemon beurre blanc butter sauce on it, you're going to say thank you, but no. That's lovely, but you would like it to just be steamed green beans, you know. And basically, if they're a good caterer and they have fresh food and they believe in their food, they should have no problem with that, because their food is good already. And they don't need to cover it with sauces. And what can I do? Well, and I know lots of people get donations from places for food. Depends on the source. I was thinking of for Dunkin' Donuts, if they offer you a donation, ask them for bagels. And cut the bagels in half.
Don't ask at Dunkin' Donuts, that's what I don't do.
Well, sometimes, you know, depending on the agency, depending on the community group, they might. And then just ask them, you know, nice, thank you, but could we have bagels? And you can get a half dozen bagels, cut them in half, and now you have 12 bagels, or get a dozen bagels, now you have 24. And then low-fat cream cheese. So these are just some examples, because we do get places like Dunkin' Donuts and Domino's do give free food, and we have to acknowledge that. How can we work with that? Because sometimes a community group might depend on a donation. And so we have to acknowledge that happens, and how can we work with them? Pizza, accept only cheese pizzas. If they have a thin crust, ask for the thin crust. And then,
Why no veggie pizzas? Why no veggie pizzas?
We could do veggie pizzas. I mean, certainly you could, and that would be fine. I was just thinking about as far as the,
Pepperoni.
not the pepperoni, not the sausage, not the cheese.
Pineapple and bacon.
But if they want you to buy something else, get salad and ask them not to dress it. Okay, so yes, I'll donate the pizzas and then I'll buy a salad for you as well. Okay, and so now you have pizza and salad and water and you have a great meal. A little bit of ice cream for dessert, everybody's happy. Other donations from larger manufacturers, so I'm talking about when you call the bigger companies, like people call Kellogg's and places, General Mills, for donations. Specify what you want and what you don't want. And if they're not willing to do that for you, then say thank you, but no. There are other companies. There are plenty of companies that have healthier foods. You could call Kashi. Yeah, it's owned by Kellogg, but it's still a separate company, and they have separate products. So you look around your grocery store, and you can see the manufacturers that have healthier products. You can call them and ask them for donations, just like you would the big people, just like you would Pepsi and Coke and everybody else. Everybody wants to get their name out there. So why couldn't you call Izzy's for sparkling water and just try it? So it's the idea of getting out of that box. You're jumping out of the box and trying something new. And that would be going to the grocery store and paying attention to what companies are out there. Because if they're in your local grocery store, then they want your local constituents as clients or as local companies. So local companies that you have gotten donations from. Anybody? I know Domino's. You've gotten donations from them?
After I gave a very big catering thing, he donated for our Nurturing Dads program, which was dinner for 20.
Anybody else?
We
I don't
also
want to give away my sources.
we get New York Bagel. You can get Day Old Bagel from Steve
Okay.
Pittsburgh.
Let me just say I get fresh fruit, both whole fruit and
From NASA?
From NASA.
No.
This is a local fruit purveyor in the city.
Lisa Tangway at 99. Lisa Tangway at 99 is the community outreach person. She'll give each 501c3 one water bottle, one meal of water bottles, like up to 250 water bottles. Yeah, but up to only once per year. You can hit her up one time, she'll give you the maximum amount.
And that's what the bigger companies might do.
Lisa Tangway, 99. See, I share.
But the fruit purveyors, I mean, Sid Wainer probably would do some donations. But think about it.
Sid Wainer isn't that,
Oh, he's not that, he doesn't have a community outreach piece?
No, he says his fruit is too expensive.
yeah.
Okay.
It's not very nice.
All right, well, then maybe that's not the person.
But Seth at Domino's, who gives us pizza, and
Right.
I guess in the past, my predecessor would buy the soda from him. We've now sort of morphed him that we buy the salad. So he donates the pizza, we buy the salad. So we don't have to deal, we still feel like we're supporting him, giving him something from it, but we don't have to take the soda.
The other thing?
Well, that's the kind of thing. So you're also giving them, remember, somebody's donating not only out of the goodness of their heart, but you're giving them free advertising as well. So whomever comes to that event is getting free advertising. So
I think that's important too. I mean, do you have donors that, we make some kind
Absolutely.
of acknowledgement list, so when people come in, they see who's donating.
make
I
a
mean,
big deal.
it's not the obvious Domino's box, but
We
I mean,
also
you make
get Mesa 21, TNA has given us before. We do a Nurturing Dads program. We look for a dinner for 15 to 20 every Tuesday night.
And
So I have a list, and I'm happy to share it, because once we hit up each place once, we can't go back again.
Right.
So if you email me, I'll be happy to send you the names of the places.
And are they're willing to work with you?
Yeah, actually, Mesa 21 at first wanted to give us something fried, and we explained to them, and they ended up doing a lovely chicken and a tomato-based thing and rice and
See,
salad.
so
They were
it's
really
definitely
nice.
doable.
Give to us.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
saying what you.
But I have to say, the first time that I had to sit with him and say, thank you for your donation, but we don't want to accept what you're offering us, it was a little uncomfortable. But now I have a better wrap that I walk in with. And I walk in with a wrap ahead of time that, part of what our agency does is we follow these guidelines that are growing in the city, and we're hoping everyone will be part of it, and I hope that you'll support us with that. And a couple of places have turned us down and said the only thing we're willing to give you is chicken nuggets. And we said thanks. But most places have
Well,
been really good about
and we do
working
have
with
the
us.
healthy restaurant program. You
Right.
certainly could call those people that understand and are part of the environment change. So that's an idea as well.
And
But I
when what,
think even saying no, Wendy, I think even if you're sending a message, you're saying, they're saying,
right,
well,
we're
I'll
not
give you
coming
chicken
back here
nuggets,
again. I'm not gonna cater for
and
you.
you're saying, no, thank you. That's
I think
sending a
someone
message to
should
them
be
saying, you know what,
eating
people in the
that.
community don't want to serve this stuff. I mean, they're getting healthier.
Right.
And Boston Chicken will do a discount, so they did 60% off.
So there you go. That was
Boston Market.
One other thing I wanted to say is that some places will say, Wendy, you told me this, we'll give you a cotton candy machine for an event or whatever. Well, if they're willing to do a gift certificate, say thank you and go buy something healthier. Or you could take the popcorn machine. That's a fun thing. But cotton candy, there's nothing in it. There's nothing in it that's going to benefit anybody.
Okay, so my husband who teaches preschool, we were talking about this because we got offered a snow cone machine. And they said I should have taken it, but instead of using syrup on top of the snow cone, I should have put take fresh strawberries and put them in the blender and then throw them on top. And I didn't even thought about that.
That's a great idea.
So you could do strawberries, blueberries, whatnot.
You can use any French fruit juice.
Right, but anything like that. But it didn't even dawn on me that this was a way to do it. Right, because all I thought it was that blue syrup. There is still a gallon in my office.
Could you use,
1992, it hasn't expired yet.
You
Because it's
could.
concentrated.
You could do the frozen orange juice.
Concentrated.
The last thing I wanted to cover was leftovers, and it's called gleaning. And I have a list of food pantries and soup kitchens in the city that everybody can take. But for your leftovers, everybody does. Sometimes people have leftovers and you say, I hate to waste this food or it's terrible. If you plan ahead, so you need to give them good notice that you're having this event, you expect to have leftovers and would they accept your food, they will be willing and want to take it. If your caterer says, that's a liability to me and I won't do that, that's not true. They're covered under the Good Samaritan laws. So they're protected under federal law, so that I would know that some caterers would say no.
And they also tell you need proper containers, and that's not true either.
Yeah. So the Eat Smart North Carolina has a wonderful guidelines for healthy foods, which a lot of the healthy meeting guidelines come from, and also they came from Shape Up Somerville. But the Eat Smart North Carolina had a great smart health foods policy that you can make up for your organization. It is all done. All you have to do is get people to sign it and post it. And then you will have something to start with at least, to have people pay attention to what the organization believes in now. So this is our policy change. Okay, so when the policies change, the environment changes and people's behaviors will change. And that's kind of the idea how this goes around and around. And the idea here is not to change people's personal choice.
No.
That's not the idea here. But if you're in the public and you're serving the public and people are where they can see you, and that is the belief of the agency because the agency exists to make people healthier, in whatever way they exist to make people healthier, then that should be the picture that people see and model. And then,
Right, you would want somebody that's great about the tobacco control program to be sitting there smoking a cigarette. I mean, I think of it that way. It's the same thing with donations or relative to cigarettes. When people say, the schools are saying, but we got free coupons from McDonald's, why can't we, but they gave them to us. What I've always wanted to say is, if they gave you cartons of cigarettes, would you take them? Well, no, we wouldn't do that. It's not good. Well, think about it.
100 kids and parents in front of me, and they're making announcements saying, upstairs there's craft and there's healthy snacks. And all the parents turn to their kids and say, oh, you're not going to like that. And then I said something to Dave, and then they started to say, and upstairs there's delicious snacks. And all of a sudden, everybody went upstairs and everybody came down.
Automatically,
It was because that word meant that it was right.
Something else.
Well, it was like the announcement I heard on the radio once as I was driving between here and home, and somebody was on WSIR advertising a weekend event, saying we're going to have lots of events for children, lots of events for family activities, rather for family adults, and we're going to have a lot of really good food, and we're going to have a lot of healthy food. And I was kind of like, I mean, it's just like exactly. It's like if you want the good stuff, go here. If you want the healthy stuff, go.
And that's the shift we need to do. We really pay attention to that shift, and we're just going to have food.
Yes. Come up with it.
And I'm responsible for what food gets
So
served.
when you're just ingesting and you're just saying, okay, I've eaten, but yet instead of saying, look what you're giving your body, you're helping, these are antioxidants to help you. And I think that's the disconnect, that educational piece.
Oh, there's no
Of
question.
understanding how good the foods are for you as opposed to how the cheese fries can clog your arteries. And so I think
Sometimes
in order to have that, shift.
Portion of the population that will work for, and then there's a portion of population that doesn't want to know. If they like it, and they think it's good for them, they'll eat it. They really don't care why it's good for them. And so it's hard to get the whole population with that understanding.
But I disagree with you there. I think that if you want to have that shift, then, and to say that, because that's the same thing as saying to Jade that it's impossible to get people to want to eat healthy foods. I think that they need to get that attitude change and to understand that this is a result of you eating this, like we talked about in the beginning, that diet directly correlates to
I
this.
understand what you're saying, but I don't think it necessarily follows in that order.
I also think that we'd be remiss in not saying, although my agency has adopted the healthy food policy, it costs a lot more money.
Oh, yes.
No matter how much donation you get and no matter how you do it. And we made this commitment walking into it, knowing, like, for example, the Peace by Peace conference, lunch used to be $1,200. It was $3,200 this year. It was incredibly expensive. We did find some community partners to help support us on it. But the response that we got is really cool. I told Pat this story. This is the second year we've done healthy food, and this year, unbeknownst to me at breakfast, St. Vincent's had some leftover donuts, and they brought the donuts and they put them on the breakfast table. And I can't tell you how many people walked by and said to me, Wendy, donuts, really? Like they were disappointed. And I just sort of felt like, I didn't bring them, it's okay, someone else brought them. So that was like the first year we tried to do it. I mean, Marsha was at the meetings where people were saying, okay, so the healthy money that we're getting we'll buy the healthy food with, and the other money we'll go buy the potato chips with. You know, like that was where we were. So in 2 years, we've seen this attitude shift of people expecting it to be a healthy, nutritious meal. And that's what costs money.
I think the key with healthy food, or food, period, it has to taste good.
Yes, and look good.
That's all.
And look good.
good. So when we're providing healthy recipes at events that we have, and they are delicious and we love them, I think we should make a commitment to have recipes available of how to use it. They don't have
That's a great idea.
Janice does that every time she cooks in our office, and if it's something her recipe's right on the counter, it's always there. And people love it.
So this is the kind of forum that helps a lot when people don't know what to do, is sharing this stuff, because everybody has tried something different, and it's the opportunity to see how it has worked as well. So you've not only shared some of the things that you do, you've also shared that they work, and that people will enjoy the better choices. And you know, we don't have to talk that they're the healthier choices, and you also don't have to be so strict and say it's only going to be fruits and vegetables. If you have sandwiches, you could have an ounce bag of baked chips. Of course you can. Of course you should, because people are looking for that. I said it myself. You know, we don't just eat with we eat with our eyes, we eat with our nose from the smell, but we also eat for texture. And I look for crunch. If I'm doing soft, I look for crunch. And I like the potato chip. I like the saltiness. So we have to think, you know, it's not something that is all or nothing. It's one of these things where you have to think about what you're giving. If it's a higher fat item, then it should be in a smaller quantity. But it's still going to be satisfying. So it's a possibility. It's doable. We just have to commit to it. And
my biggest challenge was it was all people with disabilities, and I laid out bowls of things like Cheerios and raisins and all kind of stuff. But I had a measuring cup in the Cheerio bowl, and I had like a quarter of a cup measuring cup in
In the raisins, right.
Right, you know,
Because of
so that
the
when they
difference in
went
the
with their
foods.
bags and picked what they wanted, they were getting, you
The
know.
right portions.
Right.
Whoa, she's good.
That's a really.
That's a really good idea. That was a great idea.
Yeah.
And you could do that if you were setting up if you're doing something for kids and they were building their own
Right,
pyramids.
yeah.
You could have the right measuring amounts. and
That's
you
a
could
great
get
idea.
perfect-
Tablespoon in the end and
Yeah.
chocolate chips, right? Dark chocolate chips.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
Try the
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're a great lively group. Thank you.
Thank you.
So good. And Masha, you were brilliant. Oh, that was